Hey guys.
Hi.
How's it going? We were just talking more and more about your life is your medicine.
Yeah.
But really taking it deeper. I mean, I think we have an idea. We're like, ooh, I like that. We think on it. We meditate it. And then it always, that's how truth is, right? Like it always goes a little bit deeper. You understand it a little bit deeper.
Right.
If you're willing to meditate on those truths, the way it can be revealed to you and how it shows up in your life, it can be astounding, and it will continue to work in your life so that you always come back to it.
Oh, for sure. And I was just telling Lori Ann earlier about always with the food issue and the weight issue and our body image and all that kind of stuff. And this weekend, some more things were coming up, as well as the other stuff that was coming up. But I think that also kind of tied together, which was really neat. And when I was looking at your life as your medicine, thinking about the people, the situations, your thoughts, and anything physical as well. But when I was thinking about the food, and because we've talked before, I don't know if we've recorded about that, but just talking about like wanting something, so and allowing ourselves to want what we want when we're craving in the moment. And my thing was like, I was never allowing myself that. I was never allowing myself the permission to have it and really enjoy it. There was always a guilt to it. And that whole saying, Tommy John saying, it was like, a happy donut is better than a sad salad.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, totally. You know, I want to be able to enjoy this and not have any guilt about it. So I experimented with that for a while, for a few months. And what happened is I started to gain weight. And so then I was thinking, okay, I know I need to be in this weight. I need to feel this and experience this. And it's uncomfortable, but can I love myself through this? So there's another piece to it, right? So there's all the different layers, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual. And the physical right now is like, okay, I'm not feeling as comfortable as I used to. And I could blame the food, right? Or I could look at, okay, so you're allowing and you're choosing whatever you want to eat. That's great. And I needed to have that and feel that. So now I'm in this uncomfortable space with my body and being like, this doesn't feel right. So then it's like, okay, I need to do a little more experimenting. And then really seeing when I'm eating something and choosing something, is it on all three levels? And meaning, is that my medicine? Right? Is all of these things. So when I choose an apple, is it nourishing me on the level of spiritual, emotional, physical?
I love it. I mean, it's so, when you said that to me earlier, because we just took a little lunch break, but when you said, I was like, yes, absolutely, because our previous video, what we were talking about is, you know, when you choose something that might not be technically good for you, like cake or whatever, asking yourself, is this medicine? Is this healing for me? And I was saying, like, sometimes I get an answer like, yes, because you get to choose, right? So, like, on a spiritual
on one
level, there's freedom. And I was just kind of like, okay, if it's on one level, then there's something going on there.
Right.
But when you introduce, like, okay, are we mature enough now to say,
and clear enough, like you said in the
clear
beginning,
enough to be able to choose on all three levels?
Yeah.
That's what we encourage in our marriages.
Exactly.
That's what we talk about, right?
Yes.
And yet my own healing is revealing to me, or my lack of healing, whatever, is revealing to me, I'm still not able to choose on all three levels.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
You know what
exactly.
I mean? Why? Because really that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
We're looking to choose, can this be my medicine on all three levels?
Right. And it's the whole thing. And that's why it's so complex and complicated, and you become clearer and clearer the more you really sit with it and look at it and experiment. And that was the thing, is like, I was experimenting these last few months. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to eat what I want. I'm allowed to eat what I want, and giving myself that permission on that spiritual level to give myself the permission, because I never allowed myself that before.
No.
And so now it's like, okay, you got it on that level. Now, because I was talking to Lori Ann too about, I have a fear of success, and thinking like, okay, now that I figured some of this out, and my body hopefully will get to where I want it to be, which I know it will, but can I hold that, not sabotage? Because I was thinking about this weekend about how is it that these other times that I've lost weight and been able to keep it off for like, the last time I was able to lose weight, I kept it off for about 2 years. But then all of a sudden it started ballooning again. And what was that about?
Yeah.
But now there's so much more clarity for me because there was so many other things in my life that were not solid. And I wasn't grounded in it. And so now I feel like I have a lot of the tools that I need to know, like, okay, yes, you can give yourself what you want, but is it on the level, spiritual, emotional, physical, that will be healing to you?
Right. Yeah.
And if it is a chocolate cake and you can be okay with it on all 3 levels, then great.
Right.
And if it's an apple on all 3 levels, great. And then just also experimenting on what kind of foods make you feel better. And I was telling Lorianne that this weekend it was a great experiment for me because there was lots of foods in front of me that I was able to choose from. And I did choose some of the other things that I wouldn't have chosen before, but then I didn't feel good afterward, after I ate it. And then really understanding, like, okay, 1, why were you choosing that? Just because you could? Or 2, was it on all 3 levels?
Yeah.
And now as I have a little more clarity, it was like, okay, it really wasn't on all 3 levels. It was just because I'm allowed to, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, this is why you're the hare and I'm the tortoise. Because I stayed in that space of like freedom, like a teenage, like a rebellious teenager, of just like, this freedom feels great, you know, like restricting myself for so many years. And this is exactly what teenagers rebel against, right? Like the controlling parents.
Yes.
And you go experience your freedom. It tastes so good.
Yes.
And you just continue to make poor choice after poor choice. And that's what I've been doing for the past 3 years, you know? Could be going on 4. I'm not quite sure. But but your just insight and just kind of like, okay, you know what? It's time to grow up.
Yeah. And I just was
really
like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. But like I had to get to this point where I gained a lot of weight and like understanding this isn't right. This isn't what I want.
Exactly.
But like the freedom is still necessary, right?
Yes.
And I couldn't weigh like, all right, well then how can I have the freedom but also meet myself on the physical level and nourish myself physically?
What can you give yourself? What
do I need? And there's this piece that I've kind of been aware of, which is like, I don't have the self-love to choose it on all 3 levels. And so that just reveals for me what needs to be healed.
Absolutely.
What do I need to focus on?
Right.
So that I can begin to choose. I choose things when they meet all 3 levels of nourishment.
Exactly. And I think, and it takes time to do that, and it takes practice. And for me, I was telling Lorianne, when I get hungry, I panic because all the thoughts come through my head of like, oh, is it going to be nourishing? Does it have enough fat? No, I shouldn't eat that because of whatever. It's the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and all the old obsessive thoughts come back in.
Yeah.
So for me, hunger makes me very anxious. And so sitting with the feeling of anxiety with it was also helpful for me. And then now taking the time that when I am hungry, okay, is this going to nourish me on all 3 levels? But then also doing some of the work before that where I was sharing with her, I had written down foods that I love. And that love on a level of all that it meets all 3.
Yes, exactly. Right.
And so but that was a little difficult for me even too, because I was like, okay, how do I feel about this?
Yeah.
How do I feel about, because watermelon, I do not like watermelon, but I love frozen watermelon, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Or, what was one of the things, like I love sweet and sour chicken, you know? So and I had actually written that down first on my list. And then I thought, okay, what is the sweet and sour chicken? Does it meet me on all 3 levels? And it was like, nope, it doesn't. No. So I took it off my list.
Oh, wow.
So it was like having to really decipher certain things that were like, okay, yes, this feeds me on all 3 levels. So that when I'm hungry, I know that list that I have, whether it be small or long or whatever you choose. For me, it was like, okay, now when I'm hungry, I can choose one of those options and not panic.
Right.
Because I know it'll feed me on all those levels because I feel it's safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's taking the moment to really clarify what does feed you on all 3 levels, because you aren't going to think about that when you're hungry or when
it's
you're
almost
panicked.
like a panic. Yeah,
right, exactly. And then you're not working from a as we've talked about before, you're not working from a grounded space. If
Right.
you're having a lot of feelings,
Yeah.
it's time to like be quiet,
Yes,
be still,
and sit with it. And when you're hungry, and when I'm hungry, I'm like, can't do
Yeah.
that. Like
Right.
that just it scares me. It freaks me out.
Yeah.
So now
Totally.
it's like, okay, prepare yourself. What do I need in the moment? You know, like I know that when I get hungry, this is how I feel. How can I be prepared to have something that I know will nourish me on all three levels, and then execute it.
Right.
So, anyways, I don't know. That kind of like turned a little bit, but
Yeah, no, I mean, and I was just thinking about like what comes up for me, why I can't choose on all three levels. Like I love fruit.
Yeah.
And I will eat fruit over and over and over
I do
again.
too. Yeah.
And I'm super satisfied with that. But then there comes a time where I'm like, okay, ready for something heavy and salty. And
But not allowing yourself to have the permission to have it?
well, now I do, like I do. But then it doesn't feel satisfying on a physical and emotional level. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, I chose it and that was free, and I'm not buckling myself into a food paradigm or anything like that. But at the same time, it's kind of like, but that's not right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I definitely want to eat more closer to the earth.
Yeah.
I don't want any chemicals. You know, I really want to eat more like we used to eat, where it's like less processed.
Exactly.
I just want to eat less processed.
Exactly.
So I struggle with, but financially, can we afford always eating less processed?
Exactly.
And two, do I have the energy? And so then I find myself beating myself up. No, I don't. I choose for convenience. And we've talked about this before. I choose for convenience.
Yeah.
So what is that needs to be healed in me, where I don't feel like I have the energy to give that nourishment the time and attention that it needs.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes me think about when we were talking about this a little earlier about that inner child. And I was thinking about this on my walk today because they were talking a little bit about, I don't know if they're necessarily talking about inner child, but more just how are you loving yourself, and what can you give yourself? And just thinking about that little girl, wanting the, I was going to say chocolate cake. That's always my go-to is my chocolate cake. Wanting the chocolate cake and being the present mother to that little girl and just being like, of course you can. Yes, you can have that. And then, but then what else could we give that little child, and saying like, okay, yeah, chocolate cake, but see how you feel later. And they usually have a tummy ache, right? Like they'd have a tummy ache later and then be like, oh yeah, it was a lot of sugar, it was a lot of chocolate, whatever. And then what else do they want after that? They usually want something healthy, right? Like a piece of fruit or something like that, or potatoes or something that would like calm their stomach down, So anyways, I have no idea where I was going with that, but it just made me think about like the inner child and really giving that little child within us what is best for that child and loving it no matter what they choose, but then kind of experimenting and seeing like on all levels, you did choose that chocolate cake, didn't you? There was something in there that you really wanted, right?
Yeah.
And then, but giving yourself what you needed, not the chocolate cake, but maybe it was some comfort or some whatever need needed to be met, but not punish yourself over it. But then just thinking about it the next time that you really want the chocolate cake, and thinking like, do I really want the chocolate cake? Is it healing me on all three levels, or is it something that I'm needing as a little child that needed to be healed or whatever?
Yeah. And again, going back to like, what do I need right now? Why can't I make the best choice for me? That for me, I think is important, because like I'm always finding I can't really make the best choice on all three levels for myself.
It's hard for me. It's hard because I'm hungry. That's usually my like panic. So I have a hard time with that. So I think like for me, like being able to prepare it is like, okay. And knowing which ones are safe for me to eat. Yeah. So that if I do go off and want to eat something that's not on there, sitting with that and being like, okay, so you want to choose the sweet and sour chicken. Okay. You can have it, right? Because there's no, there's no,
I mean, there's it's not wrong.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's not wrong.
But is there something else going on?
Yeah.
That you are choosing that because it's not really going to make you feel the best.
Well, and it goes back to you saying, like, I'm scared of being successful. I mean, when I'm thinking of my own situation, I'm thinking, well, I find myself in those situations where I choose convenience because I don't prepare. I don't take the time to think and make sure that we have the groceries or whatever we're going to eat. When I do, I'm very successful.
Exactly.
It's not a big deal.
Right.
And it's fine.
Right.
But it's almost
like why are you sabotaging that? Like, yeah, interesting.
Right, yeah. And it's like, okay, so do we have to look at why you won't put yourself first? And why you continually let other distractions lead the way in your life instead of putting yourself first and so that you have what you need so you can make a choice that's good for you on all three levels.
Right.
Like, and it's that deeper choice, which is you didn't put yourself first. You know it works and you don't do it.
Right. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking about all those years where I would prepare my food and take it with me. I'd always bring it to parties. I'd always bring it out to restaurants, all that stuff. I'd always bring the food with me. But I'm coming from a different place because that was more of a punishment, and that was more of like, it's the food, it's the food, it's the food, it's going to heal me. And I have to do this because I can't eat everything else that everybody else is eating because I'm sick.
Yes.
And now it's like, oh, no. You're preparing because that's what you want and need to give yourself, because you love yourself enough to know you have to be prepared, because you know you'll panic if you don't have the proper food.
Right.
And then you'll go down that rabbit hole of eating all the foods and then being like, oh, I didn't do that to myself.
Good. Yeah.
And then punishing myself later. And this is like the whole cycle, right? It's like breaking the cycle.
Right. And really shifting your intention of why you do the things you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. Really nice. I do want to touch on, let's do another video with kind of like your life is your medicine. And kind of focus on people. Okay, perfect. You want to do that? Yeah. I think that's where we were supposed to go with this one, but that's okay. It always goes off in another tangent because I just started. No. It was good. I think it was helpful. Okay. All right. Bye. Bye.